I'm excited to look with you at how to develop strategies to improve the implementation of social justice policies. Any policy is only as good as its implementation, and a successful implementation matters to us as social workers because it is here where we turn theory into practice, and it is when a policy becomes reality for the stakeholders and our clients. To begin with, it is important to remember that the implementation process does not begin only once a policy has been passed. Successful implementation already starts while developing and drafting a policy, and the policy to be implemented must be based on a valid and thought through theory of cause and effect. Because we as social workers will often be concerned with the implementation of social justice policy, I want to address some of the particularities of these kinds of policies first in order to understand potential implementation obstacles. There will possibly be disagreement about what causes the social justice problem and how those causes should be addressed. Social justice issues have a number of driving factors, but some people, and most likely your opponents, will possibly take on a more social Darwinistic approach, while you might be coming from a more system theory informed perspective. There will also be disagreement about how a social problem is perceived, especially because with social justice issues, there is a tendency to view a problem in a binary way. Social justice issues often involve multiple government, department, agencies, or public services, which makes the implementation process more complex than if it was just the implementation of, let's say, an agriculture policy. Social justice issues are often highly charged with emotions, and therefore naming and framing of a problem has to be done in a sensible way. Necessary but difficult decisions are much harder to make about social justice issues than with less emotional policies. Social justice policies often take years to have a measurable effect and impact, but politics favors short-term outcomes. Therefore, it is especially important to keep the focus despite political transition. Additionally to these distinct challenges, social justice policy implementers also face the same obstacles as other policy implementers, which regularly concern the resources they have: time, people, and money. With these particularities in mind, the implementation process should be aware of the following tools and strategies. It is important to anticipate what obstacles to the implementation might arise and to understand who your opponents are, what their goals are, and how they might act. Will they try to lessen the effectiveness of the policy? Will they try to intimidate your stakeholders? How will they try to do that? And what can you do to counter their efforts? Some of the counter strategies you have are turning something negative into something positive, reframing an issue, and actively setting the agenda. The policy directive includes statements and specific instructions that are supposed to guide the organization and agencies who implement the policy. The high-level ambition of social justice policy developers must be broken down into a clear definition of what the goal is and what the outcomes are that matters most. Being clear about what matters most also makes it easier for the implementers to address severe cases, which otherwise might fall under the table due to pressure to show quick results. Structures to support implementation include creating a strong leadership and involve implementers who are committed to the goal and passionate about reaching this goal, to define clear roles in implementation process and the correct sequence of specific tasks. Really important is also to be concerned about the contextual understanding of the policy in the society by taking advantage of the media and creating social empathy amongst communities that are not beneficiaries of the policy. Last but not least, in order to achieve the policy's goals, the implementers as well as the policy makers want to keep a strong relationship with feedback loops and a continuous focus on understanding how the policy works out in the real world. Let us look now at the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. When implementing the Affordable Care Act, The stakeholders first identified the obstacles and the arguments of their opponents, namely people who oppose public benefits, and then they reframed their opposition, or at least they could have done so. You may state that public benefits become an enhancement of the American ideal of liberty by freeing people of illness instead of calling it public benefits only. The main goal of the policy was well defined, namely make affordable health insurance, available to more people. And an effective feedback loop makes the challenges visible. For example, the healthcare industry is critical of the additional workload and costs placed on medical providers. Thank you for your attention.